So in our schedule, obviously, I think that a lot of people has been waiting for this because we've seen a lot of growth at first Typeform and now at Travel Perk, all right? We have the one and only Jake Stainer that is going to come on stage. So big up to Jake Stainer, first of all. All right. So was it from 1 million to 24 million ARR? Amazing. All right. So let me get a mic for you if you're okay with that one. Yes. All right. Here's your clicker. All right. The stage is all yours. You got water there as well if you need it.
Thank you very much. So my question to begin with is, who here would like to build a $1 million SaaS company? Anyone? Lots of hands. So in this workshop, I'm going to explain exactly the secrets that the biggest SaaS companies are hiding from all of us and the tactics that we can use to build one of these companies as well. But before I get started, I just wanted to tell you guys how I got into digital marketing. So it all began back in about 2008, 2009, and I was building websites. I taught myself to program, and I was on these different forums, such as PHP Freaks and these other ones. And I built an online community to allow people to exchange languages online. And I realized I needed to get traffic to that community, right? So I was searching online, and this was back in 2008, 2009. And I bought the book SEO for Dummies, and this is how I taught myself SEO to begin with. And SEO back then was really different, right? Back then you could exchange links with people, and you'd get to the first page of Google. And websites, what they would do is they would have a dedicated page for link exchanges, and you would email websites saying, hey, can you put a link on your link exchange page in exchange for adding a link to mine? And you'd exchange links, and you'd get to the first page of Google, right? So it's super easy. But since then, times have changed a lot. And in terms of PPC, how did I get into PPC? So I also wanted to drive traffic through PPC to my website. So I knew these vouchers existed, right? So like a £75, £50 Amazon voucher. And I realized that you could purchase these on eBay. So back then I was 16 years old and I couldn't afford to spend money on PPC ads. So instead I managed to buy a £75 Amazon voucher for just £1 on eBay. And that kickstarted my, let's call it, career in PPC and digital. That's all history. 4 years ago, I moved to Spain and I joined Typeform. And there I started as employee number 29. There's now around 200 employees. And I was the second person there in the marketing team. And there I built the growth marketing function. So Typeform grew from 0 to 10 million in annual recurring revenue. This is what the ARR stands for in the title. And just through virality, right? So Typeform is a really viral product. When people share a Typeform, so Typeform is a survey, it can be a form, it can be a quiz. There's different use cases out there. When someone sees this, they then sign up to Typeform. They create a Typeform, and then more people see that Typeform and sign up. So it creates a viral loop. And Typeform grew from 0 to 10 million without spending any money on paid ads. However, my role in Typeform was growing the PPC, the SEO, and these other digital channels. And I was able to build a team of 10 people before I left in about February this year, where I joined Travel Perk. And Travel Perk, as I'll show in a minute, is a completely different type of company in the sense that Travel Perk is growing through different ways. So Travel Perk has a huge sales team. Typeform doesn't have a sales team, and I'm going to explain the reasons why in a minute. So that's a bit behind my experience. And at Travel Perk, I'm also leading the digital function there, looking over paid ads, SEO, and all the other digital channels. So growing a SaaS company, so SaaS stands for software as a service. So growing a SaaS, it's a science. Obviously, there's the arts part of it as well, but I strongly believe that growing a SaaS is a science because you can't just make up the pricing of your SaaS company and expect it to work. You can't just say, we're going to invest in LinkedIn ads and expect it to work. You can't create a sales team and expect it to work because it depends on many different factors. And there's 3 different ways in which you can grow a business and 3 different ways in which you can grow a SaaS company. So there's 3 levers that you can pull, and I'm going to cover them in this workshop and explain ways in which you can pull these different levers. So the first one is you can acquire new customers. The second one is you can increase the average amount that someone spends on your product per month. And the last one is you can retain your customers for longer, so you can reduce what we call churn. And before I get into this presentation, I've got a small crash course on SaaS terminology, because there's lots of different acronyms here that I want to explain before I get into things, because I might drop acronyms here and there, and I want everyone to understand what I'm talking about. So the first one is ARPA. So ARPA stands for average revenue per account. So if you go on, for example, Typeform's website and you go on their pricing page, you select a plan for 30 euros per month, then we say the ARPA is 30 euros. ACV, so this is annual contract value. So this is basically your ARPA times 12. How much on average does one person spend on your product per year? Next one's MRR. So this is the most common SaaS metric. So MRR stands for monthly recurring revenue. And here the sum is simply your ARPA times the number of customers that you have. So if you have 100 customers, on average people spend 30 euros per month, then your MRR is 30,000. ARR, so this is annual recurring revenue. So this is basically your MRR times 12. So this one's super simple. Next you have churn. So churn is the percentage of people that unsubscribe from your product every single month. And it's a percentage. And there's two types of churn. And it's an important distinction. So the first one we call MRR churn. So this is the amount of revenue that you lose every single month. And the second one is customer churn. How many customers are you losing every single month? And the difference is important because if one customer is spending 50 euros per month on your product and everyone's spending 500 euros per month on your product, if you lose one customer, then you might have lost 50 euros per month or 500 euros per month. So it's important to look at MRR churn to understand how much revenue you're actually losing every single month. Another metric is what we call CAC, so customer acquisition costs. And how we calculate this is we take all of the costs for acquiring your customers. So it could be salaries of your team, the sales team, how much money you spend on ads, how much does your server cost every single month. So I think at one point, Typeform was spending something like 30,000 euros just on Amazon costs every single month, and this was in the calculation. Advertising costs, any tools, etc. And then we divide it by how many customers we got in that same time period where we look at the costs. And the last one, I think one of those important SaaS metrics out there, which is overlooked, a lot of people look at MRR and churn, is called lifetime value. So this is the average amount a customer spends on your product in the whole lifetime. And I want to go over the calculation first because it incorporates these two levers that you can pull. So the first one is ARPA and the other one is MRR churn. So to calculate lifetime value, you divide how much someone spends on average per month by the MRR churn, so the percentage of revenue you're losing every single month. Here's an example. So if your product costs 30 euros per month and 6% of your revenue is lost every single month, then your lifetime value is 500 euros. And then from your lifetime value, you can work out your retention. So how many months does someone stay with you on average? So here it's 17 months. So 500 divided by 30. And lifetime value is everything. And I'm going to explain why it's everything right now, why you should really understand your lifetime value and predict it. So here's an example from Travel Perk. On the left, you have a LinkedIn ad, and on the right, you have an event that we did for lead gen. Why is this important? So this event on the right, it cost us about 20,000 euros to put on this event. And LinkedIn ads is one of the most expensive ad channels out there because you can do super highly targeted ads. And the reason I put this on here is because at Typeform, we couldn't afford LinkedIn ads, and we couldn't afford to do events for lead gen either, because the lifetime value is completely different. At Typeform, the average lifetime value is roughly 600 euros, and at TravelPerk, it could be up to 100,000 euros. So this changes the game completely, depending on the lifetime value that your business has, right? So there's 5 ways which you can build a 100 million SaaS company, and there's 5 animals, right? And it looks through the lifetime value and the tactics that you can employ to acquire customers. So the first one is a fly. This first one isn't really for SaaS, but it's important to understand how this works. So if you want to build $1 billion company and you're going after flies, so these are people that spend on average $10 per month on your service, less than $1 per month, then you have to have a zero-touch model. So what does zero touch mean? Zero touch is that when someone purchases your product, they have zero contact with a sales team or a human being. At most, it could be a support tick or something else, but they almost have no contact with anyone else. They come and they purchase the product, and we don't even speak to anyone. So this is zero touch. And these type of business models, they rely on social interactions, referrals, etc. So a couple of examples are Yelp and Brainly. They're super social, and they built in different loops, and I'm going to go over the different acquisition loops later in this presentation. The next one's that we call mice. So when you're hunting for mice, what you're doing is you're looking for people that spend on average about $100, $200, $300 per month on your product. So in the example of Typeform, the average is around 350, 300 euros per year on the product. So they're hunting for mice. So another example is Dropbox, you have Slack, etc. And again, zero touch. For 300 euros per month, you can't afford to build a sales team. So Typeform doesn't really have a sales team. So this is the difference between a fly and a mice, for example. Another thing is you have to build referral loops. So the example I gave before is when someone shares a Typeform and they see a Typeform, then they sign up to Typeform. It creates a loop where Typeform can acquire new customers for free without spending money on paid ads and without hiring a sales team. The same with Dropbox. If you sign up to Dropbox, you can get free storage if you invite your friends. And those friends then come to sign up to Dropbox, and then they invite their friends, and their friends invite their friends, and the loop goes on and on and on. So to make this work economically, you can't invest in LinkedIn ads, you can't go to events, you can't build a sales team. So how do you acquire customers if your lifetime value is only about 300 euros or $100 per month? This is the way to do it. The next one we call rabbits. So to build a $1 billion company, you have to get 100,000 customers spending on average $1,000 per year. And this is where it gets interesting because you're at a crossroads where it isn't as cheap as, say, Typeform for $100 per month. So you want some kind of interaction with a human. But for $1,000 per month, you can't afford to build a whole sales team around this kind of model. So what do? So you have to focus on inbound marketing, so SEO, content marketing, free tools. So on Bounce, they have a free landing page analyzer tool where you can sign up and they generate leads through this and people share it. So it's highly shareable and they build a big inbound function. High NPS score. So NPS is Net Promoter Score, the satisfaction your customers have with their product. So the more satisfied your customers are, the more they're going to come and refer your product to other people. And again, these businesses, they usually have a free trial model. So you can sign up for free for 14 days, try the product, and then pay. So this is the model that they employ in order to make this work. And again, it's low touch. So it's not zero touch, it's low touch. You might have some interaction with a salesperson, but you can't afford to build a whole sales team to come out and find these customers. The next one is what we call DEARs. So a couple of examples are HubSpot and Qualtrics. So now, with $10,000 per year, now you can afford a sales team. Now you can hire salespeople. Now the game changes completely. Now you can purchase LinkedIn ads. Now you can go to events. You can do a lot of different things when your average contract value is $1,000 per year. So imagine you built a SaaS company and you decided that you want to sell it super cheap to beat the competition. Well, actually, you can't build a sales team and you can't go to events. So the way you price your SaaS company changes the picture completely. The last one are called elephants. So on average, someone spends $100,000 per year. And again, the game changes once again. So for this one, it's a high-touch model. And this is where you do enterprise sales. This is where you do a lot of field marketing. You invest in a lot of events. You fly sales teams out to different locations. It's a longer sales process. You're not looking for referral loops in your products and virality. And the game changes once again when you build a SaaS company around this price point. So these are the 5 different animals, and you can see how the game changes when the value of your product changes as well. If you search in Google for Survey Maker, you see 2 SaaS companies. The first one is Qualtrics, and the second one is Typeform. So why is Typeform number 2, and why is Qualtrics number 1? Qualtrics are going after deers. Their average lifetime value is $27,000. And Typeform are going after mice. The average lifetime value is about $800. So Qualtrics can afford to be number 1, and they beat Typeform at their game. So what this means is when you're pricing your SaaS company, if you don't realize the other players in the market, then you're not going to win. So in this case, Typeform, right now, they're looking for ways to increase their lifetime value so that they can be number 1 here and they can invest in other channels such as LinkedIn ads. So by understanding this, it changes the game completely. So when you're planning a SaaS company or your product, if you don't understand how all of these things work together, then your business model could be broken or it could work super well. So when you're pricing your SaaS, these are some other tips. So how complex is your sales cycle? So is it super easy to use? You just sign up and you can use it straight away? Or does it require you to integrate with your CRM or other things in your business, right? Because the more complex your sales cycle or the product itself, then the higher you have to price your SaaS company because it requires a bigger human touch. Other things, like I mentioned, like what market are you entering, what are your fixed costs, and lastly, what's the perceived value of your SaaS company as well? So that can change the price completely as well. Regards to fixed costs, like imagine you spend 50 euros per month on hosting per month, and then you have to add on all of the other acquisition costs that I spoke to you about before. So how much does the sales team cost? How much do the paid ads cost? How much all of the salaries? When it adds on, the price is completely different. So maybe you realize you can't even compete in the market you wanted to compete in because your product costs more than the competition. So it depends on lots of different factors, and this is why I think SaaS is a science. You have to understand how much does your product cost, what channels can you use, because it changes the game completely. So I put here, price your SaaS company to either fuel the growth or kill the growth of your SaaS company. And there's other things you can do as well to try and increase the amount of money someone spends on your SaaS company every single month in order to increase your lifetime value, right? Because as I mentioned before, there's two levers to lifetime value. One is how much does someone spend on average per month on your product, and the other one is how many people churn and unsubscribe from your service. So this one here, this part is dedicated to understanding how you can increase your average revenue per account. So when you price your SaaS company, there's 3 dimensions that you can use, and I call it 3D pricing. So the first dimension is seats. An example is money.com. On money.com, they have this bar at the top on the pricing page where you can sign up as 5 users or you can sign up as 200 users. And this changes the pricing completely, as you can see here, from $59 up to a few $1,000s. So by enabling this in your SaaS company, you can upsell people super fast on the number of seats that they're using and increase the revenue a lot. So when I joined Typeform, we didn't have any seats at all. It was just share your login with your co-workers and use Typeform. But since they implemented the number of seats, then they doubled the lifetime value, and we were able to invest in new and exciting channels and reinvest that profit in different and exciting ways. The next dimension is features. So this is probably the most common thing you see in different SaaS pricing. So basic plan, the pro plan, the enterprise plan, etc. Here's another example from Typeform. So they put features on different plans, and they know the value of the features. So what Typeform did is they ran a survey, and they asked people, how much do you value all of these different features in Typeform, ranking them from 1 to 10, for example. And based on that, they were able to understand, how can I place the features to enable people to upsell to a higher plan? So for example, one of the most sought after features on Typeform is the ability to remove Typeform's brand from the form or the survey, right? And most people choose the €70 per month option just to remove the brand from Typeform so that their form looks like it was made by them. So when you're building your SaaS company, you have to really understand what are the features that people value the most and where can you price them on different plans to get people to upsell to different plans to get the most valuable features at a higher cost. The last dimension of pricing is usage. So this really is the value metric of your SaaS company. MailChimp, for example, their usage metric is the number of emails that you send through MailChimp every single month. And as you can see on here, you can spend $300 per month or up to $1,000 per month without speaking to a human, and you just click on Buy Now, and you can sell people this way. When I joined Typeform, for example, the pricing was feature-based. You paid based on features, and then we implemented limits on the number of responses that you get from Typeform. And again, we increased the average revenue per account, and we created an inflection in the growth in Typeform. So like other examples, so Typeform is number of responses, MailChimp is number of emails. If you make a landing page, it could be number of landing pages. So what's the value that people get from your product? And how can you upsell people based on the usage that you get? So these are the 3 dimensions of pricing. And if you're able to incorporate all 3 of these, then you can ensure that you can get the biggest ARPA, average revenue per account, per month possible. Does anyone recognize this growth hack? Sorry? Yep, it's Hotmail. So Hotmail, they added a growth hack to try and acquire new users. And what they did is they added to the email signature of all of their users, P.S. I love you, get your free email at Hotmail. And what happened when they did this is they created an inflection in their growth. Hotmail didn't spend money on paid ads. They didn't go to events. They didn't build a sales team. They added this loop, a viral loop, where people would see this email signature, sign up to Hotmail, start using Hotmail, and then email more of their friends. And then their friends would do the same to acquire loads more customers. So this is called a viral loop. This is the basics of it. Someone signs up to your product. They share something. So when you sign up to Facebook or LinkedIn, you invite your whole email list. And then when someone's invited their friends, their contacts, or they've shared that thing that they're sharing, then a percentage of people are going to click on that, and then they're going to sign up as well, and then the loop continues. So in the context of Typeform, as I said before, when people sign up to Typeform, they create a Typeform, a form or a survey. They share the survey on LinkedIn, by email, to their friends, and then some people see this survey, they see the brand on the survey, and then they sign up to Typeform, and then they create a survey, and then they share it, and then it keeps going on and on and on. And this is how Typeform grew from 0 to 10 million in annual recurring revenue with zero money on paid ads. And other examples of Dropbox, like free space on your Dropbox, and then more people see it. And then Slack as well. So when you create a Slack community, you invite everyone, and then they see it, and then they invite people, and so on. So this is one growth loop that you can use to acquire customers. So before, this is the other way to grow a business, right? To acquire new customers. And this is one growth loop that you can use to acquire customers, and it's called a viral loop. And there's 4 different acquisition loops that you can use. This is the first one. The second one is called an SEO or a content loop. And what happens is someone signs up to your product or your service, they create a piece of content which is public, and then Google indexes this piece of content. Someone finds that piece of content, and then they decide to sign up to the service. Then they create content, and it goes on and on and on. So there's 2 examples here. One example is Jotform. So Jotform is a competitor of Typeform. I know them very well because I analyzed them a lot when I was at Typeform. And Jotform, they make forms. And what they do differently to Typeform is that when you sign up and create a form, they give you the option to make your form public as a template in their template gallery on their website. So imagine I make an employee satisfaction survey, for example. I make it public on their public template gallery. Google finds this. They index this form. If I'm searching Google for employee satisfaction survey, then I find Jotform. I sign up to Jotform, and then I make a form. And then I might decide to share this as well. And then it gets indexed in Google, and so on and so on and so on. Another example is from Greenhouse. So Greenhouse is HR software. Let's say hiring software. When someone signs up to Greenhouse and they list their company on there, their company page actually gets indexed in Google. So if you were to search, for example, in Google for travel perk jobs, you'd actually find Greenhouse's logo at the bottom of that page. And if you're the decision maker, then you might decide to sign up to Greenhouse. And then you make your company page, and then so on and so on and so on. So this is a loop that you can add to your product through content and SEO to acquire new customers with zero money spent on paid ads. The next loop is paid ads, though. So other companies like Money.com, Squarespace, they do spend a lot of money on paid ads. And the way they do it is they basically reinvest the profits they made into spending more money on paid ads. So this is the basics of how it works. So someone clicks on an ad, they sign up to Squarespace. A percentage of those people then purchase Squarespace, and then from that money, Squarespace reinvests it in paid ads. And what we do in SaaS is we make sure that what we spent to acquire one customer is 1/3 of the lifetime value. So for example, if our lifetime value is 600 euros, then we can spend maximum 200 euros to get that one customer. And in this example, if I just made 600 euros and I made 400 euros profit, I can spend on more ads, and then even more ads, and the loop goes on and on and on. So this is another loop that you can add to your product for exponential growth. And the last one is an outbound sales loop. So this is what companies like TravelPerk and Qualtrics are implementing. So what happens is you hire a sales development representative, and they prospect for new customers on LinkedIn. They send emails, they cold call, for example, and they book a demo for their account executive. This person gets the deal signed, and then the company makes money, And again, they take a proportion of that margin, that profit, and they hire more salespeople, more sales development representatives that find even more people. And then the more people that they find, the more money you can invest in hiring a bigger sales team. So this is why TravelPerk's sales team is 100 plus people, and it's doubled or tripled in the past 6 months, and it's growing super fast. So these are the 4 different growth acquisition loops that you can implement into your SaaS company. And you can also do something that I call growth loop stacking. So this is an example of TravelPerk here. On the left, you can see what are called linear channels. So these are marketing acquisition channels which don't have a loop. So for example, if you do an event, one event won't easily lead to another event. Same for PR, content marketing, etc. And if you invest in these channels, they amplify the impact of your growth loops on the right-hand side. And here, these are the 2 growth loops we have at TravelPerk. So one is the sales loop. So we keep hiring more salespeople, and they find more customers, and that profit we reinvest in more salespeople. And we also have a paid marketing loop as well, where we spend money on LinkedIn ads, on Facebook ads, etc. And then we reinvest the profits in even more and more customers. So when you're planning your SaaS company, a really good thing you can do is to map out one of these models before you begin, because the trick is, how can you implement these loops in your product before you even made your product? How can you design a business that has these loops in it already? How can you design a business where when someone uses your product, they share it with their friends and more people find it? Or they create content which gets ranked in Google. Or if you have a product already, you can do a brainstorm and think, how can I get these viral loops or content loops, paid loops, sales loops into my product to create all of this exponential growth? And these are the biggest secrets of the biggest SaaS companies out there, like Slack, Squarespace, Typeform, etc. They use growth loops. The last part of this workshop is looking at how you can reduce churn. So a reminder, churn is the percentage of people that stop using your product every single month. So to uncover the tactics other SaaS companies are using to reduce churn, what I did is I signed up myself to about a dozen SaaS companies. I walked through their funnel, I purchased their product, and I unsubscribed myself from their product to see what tactics they were using to try and keep me there. And this is what I found out. First of all, though, this graph shows you the difference it makes when you reduce churn. So the first line shows a 3% monthly churn. So on average, 3% of your customers are leaving you every single month. The second line is 5% of customers are leaving you every single month. And a 2% reduction in churn saves you 3,800 customers. So a small decrease in churn has a big impact on your business. And if every single customer was worth 100 euros per month, then you can already imagine how much money you're losing by just having 2% extra churn. It's like 300K per month, right? So this is why churn's important, and churn really kills your business, because as you grow acquisition and then churn creeps up behind you, then you get stuck and your growth becomes stagnant. So if you don't sort out churn, then your business is it's not gonna grow as fast as you want it to grow. So these are the things I found out when analyzing different companies. So the first one was from Prezi. This one's super simple. What they do is when you click on unsubscribe, they simply say, type in delete, and then we're going to delete your account. So one mistake a lot of companies make is that when you click on unsubscribe, they just unsubscribe you straight away, and maybe you didn't want to click on that button, maybe you had second thoughts. So an easy thing you can do is just to add in this pop-up which says, please confirm you want to unsubscribe. This is a super simple one. The next one is what Proof do. So Proof, they have a free trial model where you get 14 days for free. And what they do is that when you click on unsubscribe, or I don't want to continue with my free trial, what they do is they allow you to extend your trial for an extra 14 days. So imagine you were too busy, you couldn't try the product, or you got distracted, or you couldn't use it in that time period. Then they say, hey, why don't you have another 14 days for trial on us for free and get to the value of Proof a lot faster. So this is what they implement. Canva. What Canva implements is when you click on unsubscribe, is what they do is they remind you what you're going to lose when you do unsubscribe. So they remind you of the features that you've bought and that you've paid for that you're going to lose when you hit that button. So a lot of the time, SaaS companies have huge pricing pages. You might not even realize all of the features that the product had in the first place. So here you might discover features that you didn't know existed, or you might be aware of the features that were pro in the first place, because a lot of SaaS companies are freemium. You have free features and paid features, so you might not realize that the feature you liked the most was even paid for in the first place. And Ancestry.com, they're not B2B SaaS, but they're still a subscription company. They use this tactic as well. They remind people what you're going to lose. So for example, they say that you're going to lose access to 20 billion records if you unsubscribe. And they add a hyperlink. So if you click on that, you come off the unsubscribe page and you get lost back into the product. So they add these deep links so that they try and prevent you from unsubscribing. Add Espresso. So what Add Espresso do is they add a downsell. So if you unsubscribe, they say, hey, thanks. You've unsubscribed from this plan. Why don't you check out this cheaper plan? So what they figured is that lots of people were unsubscribing because it cost too much money. So what they did is they added this plan called the University Plan, which costs, I think it's about $20 per month. And they allowed smaller companies to continue purchasing their product at a lot smaller price. This is what Add Espresso did to reduce churn, but they kept people on a smaller plan and they kept customers in their product. The next one is Prezi again. So what Prezi did, so Prezi is a presentations software company for those of you who don't know. If you click on unsubscribe, they say, if you unsubscribe, we're going to make all of your presentations public. Everyone's going to be able to find them. So if you're like in business and all of these like private presentations you made, then by unsubscribing, they're going to make all of the presentations public. So you have to go through the hassle of removing them or exporting them to PDF or PowerPoint. So they add an extra layer of friction to try and keep you as a customer. So that's what Prezi does. Canva, so Canva again, what they do is as soon as you've unsubscribed, they send you an email saying, hey, you've unsubscribed, by the way, do you want to resubscribe again right now? so this is what they add. So what Canva adds. So a lot of SaaS companies, what they don't do is they don't try and prompt you to resubscribe again as soon as you have unsubscribed. So at Typeform, we did this. When you click on unsubscribe, the button changes to resubscribe. And what we found is that a lot of people actually resubscribe again straight away, and we never actually figured out why. MailChimp, so this is the most surprising revelation that I found on MailChimp. So MailChimp's funnel is really bad, in my opinion. The pricing page is really good because you can spend $1,000 a month on MailChimp without speaking to a human. But what happens when you unsubscribe from MailChimp? It says you have to delete your whole MailChimp account if you want to unsubscribe. You have to delete your whole email list. You have to delete all of your campaigns. You actually lose access to your whole account if you unsubscribe from MailChimp. So this was the most shocking thing I found. The most aggressive one, which I didn't expect from a company like MailChimp, but they make you delete your whole account if you churn from MailChimp, right? So this is what MailChimp's using. So basically, let me summarize all of these different things. So this was about how can you scale a SaaS company. We know there's 3 ways to grow a SaaS company. One is to acquire new customers. The second one is to increase how much people spend on average for your product per month. And the third one was how can you reduce churn, how can you retain them for longer. So the first point is match your lifetime value to your go-to-market. So think about your product. Do you need a sales team or don't you need a sales team to sell your product? Because that can change your pricing completely. You can't price a product at $20 per month to beat your competitors, but then you also need a sales team. It doesn't work. So it's a complete science. The second one is understand, like, are you zero touch, low touch, mid touch, high touch? Do people need a human touch to use your product or not? Because then again, it's going to change things. If your product needs a high touch, then you can sell it for a lot more. It also means you can go to events, hire a sales team, and do LinkedIn ads. If it's low touch or no touch, it means you might have to build a viral loop to even build a company in the first place because you can't afford to hire a sales team. Next one is price your SaaS company on these 3 axes. So use 3D pricing. The first one is seats, allowing people to invite all of their employees or colleagues to your tool. Usage, so a usage metric like number of emails, etc., and also features. So for example, removing branding from your product or integrations into HubSpot, for example. Build viral loops into your product. 4 different acquisition loops. So the viral loop like Dropbox and Typeform. The other one was a paid marketing loop like Squarespace and Monday, if you have that much money, of course, because you need a lot of money to invest in paid ads. Sales loop, if you want to hire a sales team, if your product needs a sales team. And also a content loop, if you want to go the SEO route of allowing people to create things which then get ranked into Google. So I was speaking to a friend of mine with another company recently, and they're thinking about adding a loop where people can ask questions to different mentors on their platform, and the answers to those questions then get ranked in Google. So they're thinking about ways in which they can add loops to their product to really add a lot of growth. And the last one is you need to reduce churn. So you need to find ways in which you can allow people to stick with you for longer. The best way to reduce churn is to create an awesome product, but there's also different tactics that you can use to reduce churn as well. So that's a wrap. I know there's lots of things in there, so add a link to download the slides if you want it, but now I'm open to any questions that you guys might have regarding SaaS. Thank you.
Jake, incredible content. Thank you so much for sharing all this content. Let's do a bit of Q&A because we got about 9 to 10 minutes before the next panel. Yeah, okay. I hope that a lot of people have questions because it's been amazing content. Thank you so much. Do you know the growth hack that Reddit did? That's a funny one that I'm going to share.
Tell me.
Yeah, it was hilarious because what they did is they did guerrilla marketing. They put stickers all around New York in the metro and stuff. They brought the traffic, but there was no content on Reddit. So what did they do? They created fake accounts and write content themselves, and the traffic started to feel comfortable and write more content. So there is so many little hacks like that Jake shared that a lot of big companies has done. So basically it's try, fail, find something cool to do, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Is that correct? All right.
Yep.
So let's go to questions. Let me get another mic here because I saw already a couple of questions there. All right, put your hands up, please, for the questions. That sounded like a song. Put your hands up, no? All right, okay. We'll start. You already asked the question, so you'll be the second one. Sorry. There is a question here from Atta. Frisbit, cool startup as well.
Hello everyone, I'm Ata, and thanks for very well prepared workshop. It's one of the unique speeches that I really learned a lot, so thanks a lot. So basically we are a Barcelona-based startup. It's a marketing SaaS, and we provide retargeting with ads. And we are mainly there in your SaaS classification. So I have two questions. What do you think for SaaS, the different types of methods to incentivize the customers, freemium, free trial, and how this should be optimized in terms of the MRR of one customer? And the other one is...
Lots of questions, right?
Yeah, we need to note this down. Hold on, let me get the notepad. Make it simple, Ata.
Yeah, then this is the only question.
Which one, how to...
The freemium, free trial, and then the duration of that to incentivize the users to convert and become the customers.
Okay, I mean, if you're a retargeting platform, then people have to spend money on it, right? Or what's the business model?
Well, it's more like... it's not retargeting with ads. We bring the users back to the website through web push notifications, email and SMS, and mainly for e-commerce and travel customers.
Okay.
And so, but it's a subscription-based SaaS.
Okay, makes sense. So for this one, I don't know the rest of your business model, but for this one, in SaaS, it's important that people can get to that aha moment as fast as possible and understand the value of your product, right? So for this one, they would have to use it to understand the value that they get from the product by using push notifications, etc. So I think a free trial would work the best for this one. So they have time to try it. In terms of like Typeform, we couldn't do a free trial because if you just want to send out a survey, then you can do it and then leave. But for this one, you can do a free trial. People can try it for free. And then they can unsubscribe afterwards. The other question you had was on how to add like a growth loop into it, right? So other companies like Proof, they have Powered by Proof on the pop-up that they have. So I don't know if you have like pop-ups on websites, but if you add Powered by your brand, then this is a viral loop that you can add. And like what Typeform did is they only removed branding in their biggest plan. So even when you pay for Typeform, you still have branding on the Typeform. And there's other like chat software like Intercom, and even if you pay for Intercom, you still see Powered by Intercom on that chat. So I think the best thing would be, if you don't do it already, would be to add the branding, add it to the highest tiered plan to remove all of the branding from it. At Typeform, we had two different types of branding. One was the more aggressive branding, where it said create a Typeform for free, and the other one was the less aggressive branding, which was Powered by Typeform. So maybe on the paid plan, you remove the aggressive branding. On the higher paid plan, you remove branding altogether, for example. So I think this is the best growth loop for your product.
Thank you.
All right, so I think Vitas here has a question, but it's like a competitor, same model, same thing. So I'm worried that it's going to be the same question. Hopefully not. So you guys are competitors, by the way, here. Huh? So you can fight outside after.
Hi. So first of all, thank you for presentation. I agree with the person before that it was really practical, and I just have to say that I'm a huge fan, and I see that you are quite on fire. Last time I saw you on the Growth Mentors webinar, now also on the link feed, and now here. So basically, my question is, could you tell me several best practices or and examples how to build like a growth team and let's say a growth framework in a, let's say early stage startup. So what I mean by this, all these growth loops, etc., sounds great, but how to put all together in a framework or flow, how to build like a portfolio of this or framework.
Okay, makes sense. You mean hiring people or building the framework, or both?
Not necessarily. To give you a more practical example, for example, let's say I'm working in a marketing team, and we kind of have the same ideas, basically what you already described here in your presentation. But my question is how to put all together, how to make a big picture, how to build like a framework of that directs to growth. Is the question, because the problem, at least what I'm facing, how to put all together. Like, you know, how to make a big picture that it will make sense for me, it makes sense for my teammates, and we align in where we're going.
It makes sense. I don't know if you've heard of the AARR funnel.
Pirate funnel?
Yeah.
The pirate funnel?
Yeah.
So, I mean, this is like, I guess, the easier thing for like alignment. So, for those who don't know, it stands for acquisition, activation, then all of the R's can be in any order you want them to be in. So, revenue, retention, and referral. Yep. So, you can really map out the different tactics that you can like employ in the company for growth. And then you can use some kind of like prioritization framework to prioritize what you work on. Mm-hmm. And then I would do like a theme every single quarter or month on what you focus on. So maybe 1 month you're focusing on acquisition, and the next month you're focusing on referral, for example. Depends what the biggest impact thing you've identified that you can work on. And of course, the most important thing is everyone's working together and trying to move the same way. Like at Typeform, we had different teams doing completely different things, and it was really difficult because we spent lots of time trying to align together on what we were working on, or trying to get all of these resources, like designers, developers. It was super complicated. So I think having like a theme every quarter or every month is super important, and creating this framework that everyone's aligned on. Another thing as well, what we were going to do just before I left from Typeform was create two things. One was a dictionary of terms that everyone aligned on. So, for example, what does activation mean, or what's acquisition, or all these different words that people use in the company, people use them in different ways. Like we had different ways to say new customers. Some people said paying customer, new subscriber, conversion. There was so many different ways. The first one is to align on like a common vocabulary that everyone uses in the company, because that allows you to move much faster and there's less confusion. And the other one is to align on what is the customer journey. So lots of people have a different vision about what the customer journey is in your company. So one exercise we did is we got people together from different departments and we mapped out on an offsite, what is this customer journey? What does it look like? What is top of the funnel and what is middle of the funnel? Because everyone thinks it's completely different, right? Like is top of the funnel just a paid ad, or is middle of the funnel your product? Everyone needs to align on the customer journey and also on the vocabulary and also on the theme that you want to work on. So that would be my advice.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you.
One final question, because we have about a minute or two left. Anybody? There's one more question there. I'll take one of those. All right, let's run there now. I can't growth hack this. I have to run, actually, you know. Here we go.
Hello, thank you for the presentation. This is Alejandro, I'm founder of Surmile. We are not a SaaS, but we do subscription model basis. Mm-hmm. So it's very similar to what you were talking about. And one is that it's quite specific. We calculate the lifetime value as a profit, not as a revenue. Is this a mistake, or people usually do this?
I mean, the most common thing that I know in SaaS is we calculate the lifetime value, and then when we look at how much we can pay to get one customer, we always say it's 1/3 of the lifetime value.
Okay.
And then we base it on that.
Okay, and the second one, which is being a problem calculating lifetime value because of our super early stage, it's how calculate the churn if churn is very different depending on the season. So the churn I had in March is different than in June, than in September, and I don't have a full year.
Okay. There's different things you can do. So, for example, it depends on the objective that you have at that stage. If it's just to prove that you can acquire customers, then agree on like a sensible like amount you can pay to acquire one customer and just acquire the customers and then wait 1 year to see the lifetime value. Another thing you can do is just see benchmarks in the market as well and apply benchmarks. But I think the best thing, if you're in that stage, is just focus on just growing the number of customers so that you can learn from them, learn what the churn is, for example, and model the different seasons. But in the beginning, it would be agreeing what is a sensible CAC that you can afford to acquire these customers and work on acquiring customers, and then you can follow the cohort when that cohort's moved over time. So I think it's kind of pointless to look on lifetime value when you haven't got all of that data yet. So the focus should just be on acquiring customers at a CAC, customer acquisition cost, which people align on in the company. Cool.
All right, give it up for Jake.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for the amazing content as well. All right, I think Jake told me that he's going to be here for some drinks after. So if you do have some other questions, you might be able to grab him, right? Is that correct, Jake? Yeah? Cool. All right.